There once was a time when I envied and looked down on people who had successful crowdfunding campaigns for book launches, movies, and other creative endeavors that I'd like to do. Now, how can you both envy someone and look down on them? Let me explain. I envy these people because it seemed like they had some kind of magic quality to be able to get people to fork over their hard-earned cash and support a project that may or may not be successful, that may or may not find an audience. You must be pretty special to get people to support you financially. Hell, it's hard enough to get people to support you emotionally when you're doing something that's risky and outside of the norm of just working a regular 9-to-5 job, punching in and punching out. It's like a high school popularity contest. And suffice it to say, I was not popular in high school. And I looked down on other creatives who launched crowdfunding campaigns because I thought asking people for money was kind of like taking advantage. I had really bought into that whole mindset that you have to be grinding 24/7, and that if you resort to asking other people for money to fund your projects, you must be a loser. And the reason that I felt this way is because many of the projects I've done up to this point have been funded out of my own pocket, through my day job working in journalism, or through small business loans or credit cards. Actually, come to think of it, I have received financial support. I got a grant from the Greater Columbus Arts Council in my city to pursue artistic endeavors. And the reason I was able to finish Lady Wrestler, the documentary I made about the courageous African-American female trailblazers in wrestling in the 1950s, is through a fellowship I received from the Wexner Center for the Arts at my alma mater, Ohio State. Are grants and fellowships and scholarships to study writing and filmmaking, are those handouts? Of course not. Those are considered legitimate ways to fund your work. In fact, getting a prestigious grant or fellowship could very well bolster your credibility. So why did I look at crowdfunding as a handout? I think I judged my fellow creatives who asked for financial support, thinking that they should have the money to fund their projects if they're working full-time, and if not, they should just pick up a couple of different freelancing gigs on the side like me. Also, I didn't really understand what crowdfunding is because platforms like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, GoFundMe, and Patreon are relatively new. But the concept of patronage is actually a pretty old idea. It's a time-honored tradition of having people with means to support the work of artists they admire. It's a tradition that goes back centuries. My thinking has evolved on this topic in recent years. I've come to realize that what I had was what one commentator calls a false sense of humility, meaning that oftentimes I would not ask for help or even accept help if it was offered to me out of wanting to seem that I was strong and capable and didn't need anybody else. But as the old saying goes, no man is an island, and we all need help and support. Something that has helped me change my limited thinking and grow in this area is the book The Art of Asking by musician Amanda Palmer. The book was referred to me by Sundance Award-winning filmmaker Diane Bell when I took one of her excellent master classes about how to get your independent film off the ground. In the book The Art of Asking, which I highly recommend, Amanda Palmer relates how she started out as a street performer, where she would perform on the street and people would drop money in a hat. Eventually, she ended up taking the art of busking to a higher level by getting people to support her digitally and make contributions online. I've also come to realize that in the film industry, very few movies are made by all the budget coming out of the filmmaker's own pocket. Even a lot of small independent films have investors who contribute to the film's budget because they believe in the filmmaker's vision and the filmmaker's ability to bring the project in on time and on budget. Don't get me wrong, I still believe in putting skin in the game and for the artist to invest in themselves and not expect everybody else to always foot the bill. But I've also come to realize that there's nothing wrong with asking for help and support. In fact, asking for support in a respectful way that has integrity can help build your fan base. And that's why I'm launching a new Patreon page. Another reason I'm starting a Patreon page is because of something that I realized recently. You have to meticulously curate all of your content on social media. As creatives, many of us have ideas and passions that don't fit neatly into categories. And it really sucks that we can't just post about whatever we want without people unfollowing us on our different social media platforms. But that's the reality we live in. Patreon will serve as a platform for all of my content that is beyond the scope of strictly writing and filmmaking. If you support me on Patreon, what will your support go toward? Finishing post-production for my first full-length narrative movie, Things Are Tough All Over, which is about a black family struggling to keep their heads above water during the Great Recession of 2008. The story is set against the backdrop of the election of the nation's first black president, Barack Obama. Patreon contributions will also cover production and marketing costs for my new Chloe Chronicles fiction book series and other projects in publishing, film, and theater that I'll soon be launching. Here's a sneak peek at my new Patreon page and some of the content and what it will look like. Here's what happened, y'all, when I tried to check something off my bucket list and tried to learn to do a backflip. The results were not pretty. You all, there was a song by LaToya Jackson called Does It Really Matter Now? I think it was produced by Full Force that came out when I was in high school, and I always wanted to direct a music video to this song. I don't know why, and yes, I said LaToya Jackson. You all, I spent a week collecting grievances, literally writing down grievances on my phone. Everything from people driving like maniacs in traffic and making me feel unsafe, to a cashier not saying a word to me when I said good morning and thank you to her, and instead she kept her attention focused on her phone as she was checking me out. This week of collecting grievances, I collected over 500. Everything from grievances that were external, people annoying me, to being annoyed with myself at like forgetting to do some task. And here's what I learned. Recently I was scrolling. God.